I know this chapter, and especially when it comes to cycle, usually I've noticed people tend to sleep, but I'll catch you guys. At-tahara min al-najas and najasat. So this is important for us. So purification from any sort of impurity. So the first hadith, one of the first things we mentioned, miftah salat tuhur, the key to prayer is purification. Tahrimuha at-takbir, wa tahliluha at-taslim. Once you say Allahu Akbar, everything becomes prohibited. Once you say Assalamu alaikum, Assalamu alaikum, in that case, again, everything that was haram during the salah becomes permissible. So what is considered impure is something you have to understand. Al-bawl wal-ghaid min ghayri ma'kul. So urine and feces from non-edible animals. So, for example, any sort of, let's say cow is something you eat. So the urines of the cow and the feces, this would not be considered impure for us. I know you might be pretty shocked. By the way, if somebody was working in the farm, but this is more of a rukhsa, if somebody was working in the farm, and back then most people did work in these kind of conditions, you will be washing yourself quite a bit. So, and anything ma fawq al-hirra min ghayri ma'kul. So let's say if something is high, bigger than the size of a cat, and if it's not something you eat, then that the urine of that and the feces of that would be impure. So smaller than that, no, I mean it would not be considered impure. And anything that you eat, i.e., cow, goat, all of these things, the bowl, I mean the urination and the feces of that is not considered impure. You look pretty surprised. Al-mayyita. Yeah. Al-mayyita illa. So anything that is dead is considered najasa, except the son of Adam. The son of Adam will not be considered impure. Anything that is dead, any of the animals that is dead, would be considered mayyit. It would be considered impure.
So when you say impure, you're talking about like you can't touch it and tray or what?
So I'm talking about any if it's feces or any of the blood, it would be impure. Remember, anything that is dry, typically, it's okay. We mentioned that anything that, so even if a dog, for example, if it's dry, so even if you took the most strictest position that the dog itself is impure, if it's a dry dog, the impurity does not transfer from one body to another. Let's say it was raining and you took the most strictest position that the dog itself is impure, and it did the shake in front of you, then you have najasa on you. So hopefully that give you an idea.
Most of the time they lick, right?
Yes,
that's a problem.
that is where, unless and until you're the most flexible Maliki, only then you would not consider the dog impure.
Sorry.
Yeah. What's your question? So the hadith itself, why they use this is because, so what the hadith indicates is that إذا ولغ الكلب في إناء أحدكم, if the dog licks the vessel of one of you, فليغسله سبعا أوله تراب بالتراب, so let him wash 7 times, and the first is with soil, or like with soil. So because of this, some scholars said it is that the basically the tongue, the saliva, and the surrounding areas, obviously. And the most lenient position, or the Maliki position, they say that there is no direct prohibition indicating this is a big debate, but like I said, the most lenient opinion are actually the Malikis. And the Hanbalis are pretty strict when it comes to dogs. They would consider it impure.
When there is no direct report, what do they mean?
Direct report in terms of saying that the dog is impure.
It's saliva.
No, they don't even they don't consider it impure. They will tell you should wash it 7 times, but it's not something you have to do. It's a weird. I have never understood the Maliki position on this, but the hadith itself tells us to wash 7 plus 1, which will be totally 8 if you were to include the. Al-khamr, this is not referring to the perfume. There's a big confusion. Whenever they say khamr, this is obviously ikhtilaf among the scholars. Is khamr, which is alcohol, ethanol, is it considered impure or not? And the Hanbalis, I'm talking about the one that we drink, like what the people drink would be considered impure. What the humans drink in general would be considered impure. But the perfumes, no. It would not be. It's not something mashroob. It's not something that you drink. Nobody opens up a perfume bottle So something that is,
The bird society cannot do too many things.
But I think that Hanafi might not.
yes,
They don't
they won't use it.
do that at all.
Yes. This because they in al-khamra wal maisir and rijzu min amal shaitan. They use the ayah that khamr. So if you look at the tafsir of this ayah, in al-khamra wal maisir wal amal shaitan. So they use, it talks about gambling and all of these qualities that is mentioned in the Quran. They consider what is the meaning of rizq and all. It's a very, very detailed topic. But the Hanbalis, the way they understand the concept of khamr itself is the one that actually intoxicates you, something that is basically you drink khamr, ethanol itself. So obviously perfume is not something you drink. This is, I was even looking at a modern scholars commentary on this, especially when it comes to perfumes. They are a lot more lenient compared to some of, so there are scholars who have taken it, let's say even among the Salafi scholars, who took the position that just use atr, like a regular perfume and not. But even the ones who teach at Medina, like Amir Bahjat, who wrote this very book, his position is that it's not something that's mashroob, it's not something you drink, so it is not a problem. And this is even if you find Mufti Menk, I found one video of his way back. This is also his position, if you like him.
That you a little bit of alcohol, any form, it's not.
You're talking about like alcohol that is drunk by people.
Maybe I misheard, but like some one that I had said that if you eat a little bit of alcohol, any form.
See, so when it comes to alcohol, if you're talking about perfume itself, like I said, the Hanbalis don't have this position that it is impure.
Is that across the board or just?
And the Hanafis are the most strictest on this one when it comes to alcohol. Yeah, they don't like to use the regular perfume. Yeah.
So even like rubbing alcohol and stuff, like just
When you say alcohol, you mean like perfume?
rubbing alcohol, like you know, like when you have a cut.
For medical purposes.
Oh, listen, the Hanbalis and all, when it comes to these things, they're like super flexible.
Okay, okay.
But the thing is, when you use it for medicinal purposes, remember the flexibility and usually the madhahibs will kick in because there's a difference between haja and you styling yourself or something.
Right.
So there's a huge difference. Ad-dam was sadid yu'afa an yasir. Ad-dam, generally, as I mentioned, even the dam of the blood of the humans would be considered impure, and sadid is pus. So anytime you have non-stop bleeding, it is a najasa. It is an, so obviously you want to wash it, and obviously pus, anything so small cuts is always overlooked. The other one is medhi and mani. So medhi is basically not the white liquid at the time of the exit, but the what is the right word? Like the sexual fluid, the pre, that is would be considered impure. But the other one, the white liquid itself, would be considered it's pure. And this obviously is an ikhtilaf among the scholars. Aisha radiallahu anha, this is one of her positions. This is also the position of the Hanbali madhab, that the white liquid itself is not pure. Because all of us, we go back to that liquid by the end of the day. That's like saying we are impure. But there is a narration where Aisha radiallahu anha just scratched it off from the Prophet's clothes. That's why a lot of the scholars took this position that mani, which is the white liquid, is not impure, but medhi, the pre-liquid that comes before mani, is considered impure. Al-wadi is any sort of liquid after urination, or sometimes people have the secretion when they're tired. All of those liquids that comes from the exit generally is impure.
You're saying many is not impure?
Not many. Wadi. This one, the last one. The thick liquids segregated after urination, or even if, let's say, if you're tired, you could have that liquid that comes out of the exit.
Okay, to recap it, can you recap the three?
So one is many.
Right, that's the.
That would be pure. That's the final liquid that comes out.
Okay.
And then there's medhi, that is the pre. Let's say if somebody's having some sort of sexual desire, in that case, that it would be considered impure. If it's on your clothes or anything, you have to wash it.
We generally go with color. If it's
Yeah.
thick and white, that would be the money, but nothing is the transparent.
Transparent liquid, yes. Wadi is like not just I guess the liquid after urination, but you can even add when somebody's tired. Also, they have certain secretions. So in that, all of those things would be considered impure. You have to wash it. So this is all najasat. I know this topic is a little challenging, not the most entertaining. Al-mazal bihi. This is a Hanbali position. I'll explain this in detail. So there is one hadith that the scholars follow, or the Hanbali scholars, the Mu'tamad, what they follow is it talks about having 7 wash. How would you define 7 wash in the Mu'tamad? Is basically, let's say you have something on your clothes, impure, something impure. You put water, squeeze it out, that would be considered 1 wash. So let's say you have something on your clothes, it's sticking. You wash it and you have to squeeze the water out, that would be considered 1 wash. So the relied opinion is 7 washes. I mean, I've asked multiple scholars who focus on checking the authenticity of the narration. This narration itself is considered weak even by my teacher, and generally the scholars consider the 7 wash as a weak narration. So what is important is izalatul najas. Removing the impurity should be, i.e., top priority. So let's say even if there's after 7 washes you still see the impurity, you still have the obligation to remove it. So let's say I know some will tell you 3 minimum, until 3 is like you have yaqeen that this thing is gone. But the goal is generally, I did ask Dr. Hatem about this also. He said you're allowed to do 1 also, as long as you are sure that you have washed the impurity from your clothes. So this has to be top priority.
But even in the case of a dog licking.
No, not dog lick. We're talking about just an impurity on the cloth. So let's say blood is on your cloth, or let's say you have some pus on your.
I mean, like.
Not dog. Clearly, it is the hadith itself indicates about
Right.
7.
So that's what the first one said, the doctor colored what things he says both
Yeah.
dark and clean.
Oh,
I can't just leave the blood to dry. I have to.
This one.
You have to wash it.
The first category,
Right.
both of those 2.
That's why they say that many is not impure, because it was dried and was fine.
No, many in general is considered pure. Many, because all of us, we all go back to that drop of fluid.
Yes.
So, and obviously the narration itself did not indicate the Prophet ﷺ actually washed, because Aisha radiallahu anha was just scratching it off.
Dried.
Yeah, and then she came. So that is 1. So 7 washes, if you're, I know expressing in this country, it's very difficult. So make sure you're removing the najasa from your clothes. Draining the clothes is one of the positions that the Hanbali like to follow. I.e., even if you wash it, squeezing it out basically. So in that way it's out from your clothes.
It is not the case for the others.
I haven't found any comment. I have to check, because I was trying to read some of the commentary from because Dr. Hatem, he likes to give you commentary from the other ones. So 1 is on the cloth and 1 is on the floor. On the floor, as long as you sprinkle water in general, you're done. So that will take care. I want to just check in the other madhab how they would consider, because I couldn't find any commentary on squeezing the water out in the other position.
Yeah, because then I'm just wondering, like, what would be the separation between the washes, right? Because it would just be confused.
Yeah. I mean, I personally don't, I do squeeze it out, but this is more like, this is what I've studied. I don't know if I would enforce this position, but the water is squeezed out in general.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
So it is water in a washing machine, water is filled and it's dropped out, it's filled again, dropped out. So just hypothetically, if let's say you were to follow the Hanbali position, hypothetically. So if you're to wash, you'll yeah. So this narration itself, a lot of the scholars don't consider this a strong hadith. But remember, the goal is izalatun najis. It has to be removing the impurity from your clothes.
And he's making it as well.
I mean, if you have impurity on your clothes, it's just on the clothes, remember.
But it touches you.
No, if an impurity, if let's say something falls on your hand and it's impure, you'll just wash it and then just move on. Wudu is something you have to have nullifiers of wudu. So if something impure falls on your hand, you won't do wudu again. You have to break your wudu for you to do wudu again, if you want to do wudu again.
So like that would not require wudu.
Oh, you're talking about like that comes out of your body? Yes, obviously in that case, yes.
Okay.
I thought you were talking about something falling on your hand.
Okay. So
But dog saliva does not come out of your body.
Yeah, let's say a dog licks you, you'll wash it 7 times, but a wudu itself is not required because
Licks my hand.
you'll just wash it this 7 plus 1.
Oh, so I would do.
You should have wudu.
I've-
You are in a state of it's like you don't need to do wudu again, because that is najasa on your hand. but you haven't broken your wudu, if that makes sense.
You have to go back to the whole lot of,
Yeah.
wudu, go back to that.
That slide will help you. Something that nullifies your wudu is what will make you will require you to do wudu again. Mubtalat. So anything from the two exits, extensive bleeding, extensive front pus, deep sleep, all of that is basically nullifiers of wudu. In that case, you have to go to wudu again.
How do you find extensive beauty? So for example, if let's say you have a cut and start to flow, then you consider that extensive, or
I mean,
is it?
usually the Hanbalis like to always go with urf, it's like customary. Like, what would you consider extensive bleeding? A cut. By the way, I remember I had a cut, small cut, and I was like, I'm not going to do wudu about this. So if you want to be really strict with yourself, you can go do wudu out of ihtiyat, but a small cut, I think most of us, I can open a door and I can end up having a small cut. So
Right.
you want to be. So I'm saying, but when somebody looks at you, when they tell you this is a lot of bleeding, and at this point of time, this is accepted generally by people as extensive bleeding. But a small cut, I mean, I get small cuts all the time. I pull a chair, then I realize I've cut my.
No, you cut and then you have it like, right, it might dry up, or if you touch it with like, let's say a towel paper or something like this, it's all become red, but it's still a small cut.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I don't, when I see small cuts, I just continue praying. Because even if you wash the small cut, the blood still.
It's still right.
So let's say you have it on your clothes, you may want to,
That's right.
you want to wash it out. That's where you have to be a little bit more careful.
Yeah.
So there's strictness when it comes to having najas on your clothes. That is where it gets a little more strict.
Touching a dead body, you can do it.
No, I said al-mayyit illa mastathna is except Bani Adam.
All except it is. I thought you meant like actually son of Adam, not.
No, except son of Adam.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
So just to remind, often they will do just those things.
I thought like a week or two ago, we said that if you clean the body of it, then,
You will have to do wudu
right.
for the one who touched. You're talking about what is this for? Najasa. This topic is.
That's what that's the-
So this is najas. So generally, if somebody does the washer itself will have to do wudu again, but it's not the dead body is not considered najasa.
So if you have, let's say, take the example of a cow, that, and, it has species or whatever, it's still, no problem, right? But let's say it's dead.
Yes.
And it happens to, its species touching, then in that case, it's just.
It's a dead. Anything that is dead would be considered najasa. But a son of Adam is not considered dead. But if you
Exceptions
wash
are in
him,
that. You raise it up, the exceptions are in that green box.
the bottom, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, Adami, so humans, what has no flowing but dead. I mean, obviously anything from the seas to it's pure, unless you are following the Hanafi fiqh. Usually they're strict on certain animals, certain. I don't want to say fishes. I think the Malikis don't consider the snails and
Yeah, shells and.
those kind of things. There's another one, yeah. But usually the Hanbalis it's a good amount of scholars. Anything that's from the sea, you eat.
So, Hanafi is the lobsters and crabs. And
They consider it makruh.
Yeah,
Usually.
makruh.
They won't say it's haram.
It doesn't say.
No.
The ayah that talks about it just talks about.
Yeah,
food
this
from
the
who
sea.
says it's not food?
The Hanafis on the crab,
Oh, and not even haram.
lobster. No,
No, it's makruh. There's anything with shell and bottom fever.
just the last part, inshallah. So how would you typically wash with water? Bilma bidun at-turab, except in the case of dog. Yes.
So just going back to the sea. So like whales and, sharks and those are.
Whales, there is a narration that the companions themselves, I think one of they ate a whale. There's a narration. So the whale was actually on the sea. So they were lost. Like maybe the next time I'll bring the narration. They were lost and they didn't know what to do. They reached the edge of the sea and they saw a huge whale. Yeah, a dead whale. But I mean, anything from the sea is it had washed up. So they ate and they stayed there for a long time. In fact, they gain weight. The hadith talks about them gaining weight also. Maybe I'll bring the hadith next time. It's a long hadith. And the Prophet ﷺ also, they told him, and he's like, they carried some more meat with them and they gave it to the Prophet ﷺ also. So the whales we know for sure it's okay. The sharks, I have to check the commentary because there are plenty of humans who eat sharks. I don't know if there's anything prohibited. Usually in the sea, you would not find prohibition because that's a very strong word where there's no narration. Because generally,
The strict ruling is if it doesn't have scales on it. Like they say, don't eat those.
Yeah.
fish. But that's like, that would be tuna, if it even doesn't have catfish.
yeah,
There were some different, like, you know, the, like, nine, right, nine.
Lions are
right?
they have the teeth.
They're, so like shark, if you look at it, right? It doesn't fall in the sea category.
But remember, in the sea,
Everything in the
little
sea.
fish is eating the bigger fish is the little one. It's just there's a big cycle.
Yeah. I mean, usually the ayah itself talks about things in the sea being halal. So there is no clear-cut prohibition. That's why even the strict positions are like it'll go down to makruh.
In terms of animals on land.
So if there's an animal that's hunting on land, crocodile is a good example. It's prohibited.
Any carnivore, mineral, or
And hyena is where the ikhtilaf is, but anything though that has those teeth, you don't eat them generally.
One time I was offered bear, but I wasn't sure.
probably
So,
something-
what?
Bear
probably rough.
came onto somebody's property in Pennsylvania. So I'm like, oh, no, this thing,
Okay, بالماء بدون التراب. Here they play 9 or 9:15. 9:15, right? Because here I've noticed, mashallah, they change the time real quick.
Yeah.
بالماء بدون تراب. So anytime you have all these impurities, you'll wash it with water. So there is one narration where if it is a male baby not eating solids yet, you just have to sprinkle water. You don't have to wash it. But if it's a girl, this is also based on a narration, you will wash it. So if a male who doesn't eat solid, i.e. a baby who doesn't eat solid, is not eating solids yet, and if you urinate it on you, will only sprinkle water. But a female baby, you'll wash it. They use it based off a narration. No, we do not. I personally do not know what's the differentiation, but that's based off the narration itself.
7 or 7.
Depends on what you would consider, wash. Remember, I mentioned there's a ikhtilaf of the hadith sahih. So if you remember, the goal always is izalatun najis, removing the impurity, and once you're sure, either at 5 or 2 or 6, that's when you'll stop.
So when you say narration, there is a hadith report.
There is a narration. The ikhtilaf is it sahih when it comes to the 7 washes.
No, not this one.
That is of a narration where he sprinkles water when a boy had actually urinated on him.
Or some of them.
Yeah. The ghasl wahid, goes back to the urination of the Bedouin and the Arabi actually urinated in the masjid, and obviously people were calling him out, and he told them let him be, and as soon as he left, he told just spray water on this area. This is a narration that they use. So when it comes to anything on earth, you spray water just one time is good enough. And anything other than that, obviously this is a position of the Hanbalis, is 7 washes. But remember, except for dog, there's flexibility on the other washes. We mentioned when it comes to wiping with stones or toilet paper, 3 is the bare minimum. You don't need a niyyah to wash your najasa. Like you don't have to have a niyyah, I'm washing from blood or nothing. You just wash, you're done. Like rain can wash your najasa and you're good to go. So it's not a requirement for you to have an intention that you're going to wash. I'm sure this was not an easy, it was a lot of detail, but